How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Two Bros Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Smith, and I'm here with my brother and co-host, Dakota Smith. How are you doing tonight, Dakota?
Well, outside of the positive COVID test I got earlier today, doing pretty good, but I can't go to work the rest of the week. But, gotta do what you gotta do. It hasn't been too bad. Throat's a little sore. It might sound like that to everybody, but just gonna get through it.
Yeah, very unfortunate. COVID's still around, but that's definitely not what we're here to talk about. We never will.
No.
So today's episode is over the NFL, of course. The NFL was an entertaining, very, very entertaining in week 4, all the way from the Seahawks and Lions combining for 93 points to the Raiders finally getting something in the win column. However, we're here to talk about week 5 of the NFL. But first is the pop and flop of the week for week 4. How this works, if you don't know already, we're going to pick 3 different players who popped off this week and 3 who flopped in our opinions. We're going to pick one. We will post a poll on Twitter for each of the pop and the flops. Starting off with the pops, the 3 contestants are Mike Evans, TJ Hawkinson, and Rashad Penny. Mike Evans, of course, this week, 8 receptions, 103 yards, 2 touchdowns off of 10 targets, and put up 34.5 fantasy points. TJ Hawkinson, 8 receptions, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns off of 12 targets, 39.9 fantasy points. And Rashad Penny, what a week for him. 17 carries, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. 41 was his longest rush on 28.7 fantasy points. A great week for all 3 players. What do you think?
It's Hawkinson for me. I saw somewhere on Twitter that's like a top 5 all-time fantasy performance from a tight end. You just don't see 179 yards and 2 touchdowns from a tight end every year. So for me, it's going to be Hawkinson. They were without Amon-Ra St. Brown and DJ Chark and DeAndre Swift, and Hawkinson did what he needed to do and stepped up. Like you said, you're supposed to win games in the NFL when you score 45 points, not lose them.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I think mine's Hawkinson as well. Had a great week. Will it happen again? Probably not, but it was an amazing week for TJ Hawkinson.
Hawkinson may be lucky to score 43 in the next 3 games.
Yeah. I would still have him in the fantasy team. That's because he plays for the Lions and there's nobody else on there. So, but moving up to the flops of the week for week 4 here, we have Matthew Stafford, Tony Pollard, and Amari Cooper. Matthew Stafford, 254 yards, not horrible, only on 5.3 average. His quarterback rating was 42.2, and he had an interception, but he was sacked 7 times with a loss for 54 yards. So you basically can take the yards down to 200 on the week in a 24-9 loss to the 49ers. 6.76 fantasy points for Matthew Stafford this week. Tony Pollard, 8 carries, 6 yards, 1 reception, 2 yards, 1.8 fantasy points. The sad thing about that performance is his longest carry was 9 yards. Amari Cooper this week, 1 reception for 9 yards, only 4 targets and 1.9 fantasy points. What are you thinking here?
Can I throw another person into this hat?
Absolutely.
Mark Andrews. He was on your fantasy team. He was on your fantasy team. I think he had 2 catches on 15 yards or something like that. But if you're going to give me the guys in front of me, I'm going to go with Cooper. After having a big week against Pittsburgh, just non-existent. Well, Cleveland's offense, if you will. That's the cons of playing with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback. Is that some days you're just going to have a really, really bad week. Well, they had a really, really bad week and lost to the Falcons.
Yeah, yes. Not a good week.
No, when you lose to Marcus Mariota, chances are you did not have a good week. Another guy we should have mentioned in the pop section was Mr. Geno Smith. At this point for the Seahawks, it's Russell Wilson who?
Literally.
Geno went off.
Yeah, he had a great week too. I almost threw Mahomes in there as well.
Yeah, he had a pretty good week. That's par for the course though. The 360 spin pass to Edwards-Helaire in the end zone
ridiculous.
Was pretty
Absolutely
great.
Ridiculous.
I was already feeling not great at that point, but that made me feel a little bit better. That But we'll get into that when we talk about the Chiefs. That's the last game we'll talk about. But
yeah, so
my vote goes to Cooper.
Yeah. Mine's gonna go to Tony Pollard. He's played amazing so far this year, I think, in my opinion. But 8 carries for 6 yards. Your longest carry was 9 yards. And one reception for 2. A very rough week for Tony Pollard. Granted, Cowboys came out to win, but
yeah, tough week there for Pollard. But Dallas has looked good with one Cooper Rush.
Yeah, look at them. We'll get to him later.
I've got a very staunch opinion on that.
Well, moving forward to the next section of the podcast, fantasy football. Here we talk about how our teams did this week. We played each other last week. We won't talk about it for too long, or at least I won't. We're gonna talk about who popped off this week and who underperformed. And well, I did lose.
Your fantasy team underperformed. Mine wins. I stay undefeated. What was the final? Of course, it switched weeks, so I have to
261.4 to 235.
You made it interesting. I was blowing you out there for a while.
Yes, I did make it interesting.
The goof went off for me. Lamar had a bad week, but Jared Goff went nuts.
So stupid.
So, yeah, I had to go to 11. That's because Dak Prescott's hurt. Like, that's the only reason I'm playing Jared Goff. It's because Dak Prescott's out. I don't have DeAndre Swift either, and I still beat you that bad. Now I play the other best team in the league, so probably my undefeated streak's probably going to end here unless David Montgomery's hurt.
Yeah, I had Amari Cooper in the flex, and well, he even had 1.9 points in our league, and that's really hard to do.
That is extremely hard to do in our league. I had Higbee had a good week. Eckler had an amazing week.
Really good week.
Jamar Chase
was horrendous.
Yeah, I'm playing the guy who has everybody good under the sun, everybody on Detroit. So I basically lose everything my quarterback's going to do this week because he has Hawkinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamal Williams. So I need Jared Goff to throw the ball to somebody other than those three.
Yeah, I'm glad I did not play Tua last week. We'll get to him. Very unfortunate things there in that franchise at the moment and for the NFL, but we'll get to that later on. I'm very happy I didn't play him though, and for fantasy purposes, because 9 points. I'll probably never play Baker Mayfield all year. He's just gonna sit the bench.
No, I would just drop Baker Mayfield at this point. They're bad.
But I had Tua's out now. Alvin Kamara was out for me last week. Breece Hall and Tom Brady are now questionable. So injuries hitting again, just like every other year for me.
Yeah. I'd always draft Christian McCaffrey and he always gets hurt.
Yeah, and I'd get him at like the 5th pick too. So
yeah. What a luxury. Cooper Kupp fell to you at 3 and you're still only 2-2. You got Cooper Kupp handed to you, gifted to you on a silver platter. No, you had 4, right? You were a little bit further down than that.
I was like 5.
Yeah, and you ended up with Cooper Kupp. Like,
yeah,
I was going for the double quarterback strategy of like Josh Allen and Justin Herbert. That didn't work. But Eckler and Chase have done me very well so far. So Chase, not so much. He's kind of disappointed since week 1. Yeah, he's been a little iffy. He gets a Baltimore secondary that's terrible this week. So hint, hint, wink, wink at who my pop of the week is at wide receiver.
Well, now we're going to answer a few questions that we have come up with. If you have any questions, let us know down below, and don't be afraid to message us on any of the social medias, and we will more than likely use them if they're good enough. If they're dumb, then we won't. So that's your own fault. First question is one that has been talked about since week 1, but now it's starting to look a little bit more realistic. Is Jalen Hurts that guy in Philly?
Oh, we're 4 weeks in. He sure looks like it. I mean, it depends on how much of a sample you want to put into 4 games. Like, that's really what this comes down to. Is he's played 4 games. They've played really well. Philly's looked great, but it's 4 games. It's a 17-game season now. I need you to prove it to me for the whole year. Like, Is this his Lamar Jackson season where he finally is going to break out and hold it for the whole year, like the year Lamar won the MVP? Like this, it has that type of year for Jalen Hurts. He has that in him. Am I saying Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP? Absolutely not. But is he one of the top 3 favorites right now? Yes. It's him, Allen. I want to throw Jackson in there, and I want to throw Mahomes in there too. So you could argue the third, but people are going to tell you it's Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and then name your third quarterback because that's a quarterback award.
Yeah, at this point it definitely is, which is kind of disappointing. But Jalen Hurts, through 4 games, it's looking like it. Only 2 interceptions. He's got 4 touchdowns. He's got 1,120 passing yards. My only problem is the fact that their schedule is so weak. And I think that's going to be a reoccurring theme that I'm going to keep up throughout the whole season for Philadelphia. And when we talk about Jalen Hurts, is the schedule is extremely weak. Probably the weakest in the NFL. I'm still convinced first round of the playoffs are going to get bounced. I don't care who they play. But I think Philadelphia is legit. I do, but it's just the schedule is so weak. It's hard to tell sometimes. But they do have the Cardinals in the upcoming week, which we'll get to later. So I think that'll be a real test for them.
So the real one, I'm going to preface this first. If Dak Prescott plays, I think this is a game on Sunday. It's Sunday night, week 6. They play Sunday Night Football in Philly. I think that's going to be a huge game, especially if Dak comes back. If that's Dak's game, he comes back. They've already basically sounds like he's definitely not going to play this week, but it sounds like he could make that return in week 6. And if he does, that's going to be a big game. Like that'll be a big one for Jalen Hurts. That's at home, so there's your advantage there. But
yeah, big. That will be a big game. That's a big divisional game too, actually. 4-0 Philly, only undefeated team left. Dallas is 3-1 at the moment. But honestly, I don't care if it's Dak Prescott or Cooper Rush. I think the game could be interesting.
Yeah, Cooper Rush has been fine. He's done what he's needed to do, but
absolutely.
You were gonna hint to this, and I'm just going to get to it. I'm going to answer the question for you without you even asking it. No, Cooper Rush is not the starter if Dak Prescott is healthy. No shot. There is just no way that you can start Cooper Rush over Dak Prescott. He is established. The fact that he is hurt for 4 or 5 weeks doesn't change anything. Yes, Cooper Rush has been great. Fine. Who have they beat the Bengals? They've not looked good. They beat the Giants. Well, that's the Giants. Then they beat the Commanders. Well, Giants they're terrible. Don't get me started with the Giants being 3-1.
I'm just saying.
I know the Giants are 3-1, and they might be one of the worst 3-1 teams ever. But they can
Giants win the Super Bowl.
Saquon's literally putting that team on his back because Daniel Jones is terrible. We'll get to him later too because they play Green Bay and they play out there and they play Green Bay in London. Not a good time for Daniel Jones to be hurt. Yeah. But no, Dak Prescott's a starting quarterback in Dallas. I knew you were going to go. I knew it's everywhere. But no, they paid Dak an absurd amount of money to play quarterback. They are not going to sit Dak Prescott. Yeah, he looked bad against Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay does that to a lot of people. The one person who has made Tampa Bay look awful this year is the best quarterback on the planet. So he can make people look bad. Or are you going to tell me Patrick Mahomes is not the best quarterback on the planet?
Well, Josh Allen has something to say about it right now. So, and so does Lamar Jackson. If you guys didn't get the hint, by the way, the question was, could Cooper Rush, if he stays hot, seriously be in contention for the starting spot in Dallas? If you didn't get the hint at it already, personally, I don't care what you paid the guy. Cooper Rush I'm looking at the stat right now, posted by the NFL. Cooper Rush is the first quarterback in Cowboys history to start his career 4-0. As a Dallas Cowboy.
That's impressive.
Boys.
I still won't forget the game. It was Sunday Night Football last year where they played the Vikings. And they went into Minnesota with Cooper Rush and beat the Vikings. That was great. Everybody loves a good Kirk Cousins choke job on Monday Night Football or on Sunday Night Football, but we all know Kirk Cousins can't play in primetime, but Cooper Rush proved he could, and they went in there and beat Minnesota. And okay, great. Yes, he beat Cincinnati. I'll give him that one. But Cincinnati's
the Giants.
Oh God, just get off the Giants. They're bad. That team is going to finish below 500. 3-1 right now.
I want to point this out though. It's the fact that he's only played. Well, he played against the Buccaneers, but it was very little. You can't.
It was like 1 or 2 drives, maybe.
It was 64 yards, 7 completions. But the thing is, he's played one less game than every other quarterback in the NFL. He is 4th in quarterback rating at 73.9. He's only thrown 4 touchdowns or whatever. No interceptions. 737 passing yards. I'm just saying. I don't care what you pay the guy.
I know.
He's
and I'm
balling out right now, and
it
could be a competition.
Okay, I'm going to make this comparison, though. Cooper Rush is that guy who's never going to lose you a game. He's also not going to win you the game, but he's not going to lose you the game. Dak Prescott is a quarterback that can win you a game.
And lose.
Oh, yeah. But you take that with Dak. Dak's just that. Dak is Dak. Dak's that good. I've been on Dak Prescott since he was at Mississippi State. Because nobody knows what the Dak stands for. It's Dakota. So,
well,
I like the guy.
I've been on the Cooper Rush train since week 2, so.
I don't know when Dak came out of Mississippi State. I'm pretty sure I was still in college at that point. That's how long Dak's been in the NFL, but I can't remember what year he got drafted.
I'm just saying there's something there. Something stirring up in Dallas at the moment. But next question, and this is definitely the important one of the week, important one of the NFL season. Let alone might be one of the biggest things to happen in the NFL's history, specifically towards injuries. How does the NFL look after the Tua incident?
Bad. I think that you just had to look at it like that. Man should never been. He shouldn't have been allowed to play. That's just it. It's just right there. I mean, the neuro consultant got fired. He should have.
Yeah, actually,
nobody should have let that. Nobody, neuro consultant or athletic trainer, team doctor, anybody should have let that man back on the field against Buffalo, and then he had zero business playing against Cincinnati. People tried to argue that the hit was dirty. No, it was a clean hit. They would have thrown a flag if it was dirty. It was a clean hit. His head hit hard again, and everybody's seen it. I wasn't watching the game, but I saw the replay. Saw it too many times. And JJ Watt came out and hammered the broadcast for showing it too much. I'm like, yeah, you show something like that once and you don't show it again. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Oh, no, it's a bad look. Don't be shocked if you see a lot more guys getting pulled out to be checked for concussions over the next 6 weeks.
Over the rest of the NFL.
Yeah, this is not going to go away. And the Dolphins could lose a draft pick with this. Like, seriously, they could lose a draft pick. I think that's probably the most severe thing that could happen is they lose a draft pick.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the precedent is for this. I don't know if we really have one for allowing someone to play with a concussion. If it was a concussion. I'm also not a doctor, so I'm not saying that he had a concussion.
It was not confirmed it was a concussion. But Adam Schefter did, this is per Adam Schefter in his evaluation and according to ESPN and multiple reports, the unaffiliated neurotrauma consultant involved in clearing the Dolphins quarterback Tua during Sunday's game against the Bills has been fired after it was found he made, this is what makes me so mad, several mistakes.
We don't know
You cannot make several mistakes in determining whether a guy okay. Everybody watching, I'm majoring in athletic training. I've talked to the head athletic trainers at where I go to college, and it literally made one of them so angry that because we've talked about it, and the thing is that concussion symptoms don't have to happen right away. I'm sure they went back. I'm sure they checked him for a concussion. I don't like not see that. I'm sure they probably didn't see any symptoms. But a concussion symptoms does not have to happen right away. It can happen a few hours later or longer. And the concussion protocol is 5 days. It is clear cut 5 days. It's universal, minimum 5 days. And no symptoms, you can return to play or at least practice. So the fact that these people deserve to be fired, in my opinion, I agree with every person getting fired. I hope they all do. And I've never said that to anybody in my life. I never wish anybody to do bad, and I hope nobody ever loses their job. But these few people who let this man play should be fired. And the NFL has to take action like they have. And I hope the Dolphins continue to take action, and I hope the NFL does too.
You said it perfectly. And you've talked to people who know way more about this stuff than both of us do. And yeah. It's just it's a really bad look too. Like that's bad PR. Those are the PR people for the NFL. And you want to try to, you can't just make this go away. Like that could have paralyzed him. That could have ended his career right there. We don't know the extent of what this is going to happen. He could come back and play in 2 weeks. He's already been ruled out this week. We get the great Teddy Bridgewater, but that's a bad look. And that could have been it for his career. And that's tough. Because he was just starting to show it too. You were starting to see it with Tua. That they finally got him the weapons. Things were starting to click, and then all this happened. They beat Buffalo. And then you come back and lose to Cincinnati on Thursday night. Now, pretty sure they get the Jets this week, so they may not need Tua. Teddy Bridgewater may suffice. Yes, they play the Jets in New York, but just a bad look for the NFL.
Yeah, it's a really bad look, and it's saying concussion, but I don't think it was actually ever confirmed if it wasn't.
I think the second time it was confirmed. The one against Cincinnati was. I'm pretty sure. He's listed out for a concussion. I'm pretty sure with what happened on the field, I've only seen people get hit in the NFL and respond like that with their body a couple times.
Yeah, and I can't find it on ESPN, but I saw that Bills fans, Bills Mafia did donate. They raised a ton of money. I don't remember the amount. I couldn't find it on ESPN at the moment. But yeah. So that is a respectable move by the Bills fan base. And Tua, obviously praying for him, hoping he gets better. Very unfortunate circumstances for him and his career. Because like you said, he was just taking off. That's the problem. Yep. He was really getting it going. So moving forward, we have 2 more sections of the podcast today, and it's the pop and flop predictions for week 5. And I won't lie, I forgot that we were supposed to pick a quarterback, running back, and a wide receiver, so I picked whoever I wanted.
Fair enough. Fair enough. You can go ahead.
But for my first pop of the week, I'm going with Aaron Rodgers. I think playing the Giants, even though I did say they were 3-1 earlier, but the Giants, I think they're going to lose this week. So kind of just gave away my prediction this year for the week that time.
Yeah,
but 300 plus yards this week, I think, is what he's going to get. I think he's going to have an absolutely monster game. The only question I have, it's not that it's versus the Giants, it's the fact that it's in London and it's at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I just saw a thing literally before we started recording that Aaron Rodgers wishes he had more time in London before the game. So I guess we'll see what happens. But mine's Aaron Rodgers for my first one.
Okay, I'll start with my quarterback. I'm going to go with Kyler. I think this is a perfect spot for him to do this against Jalen Hurts in the late afternoon game. They're coming off that win against Carolina. He wasn't spectacular. He was 23 of 32, 207, 2 touchdowns and a pick and a rushing touchdown. He's been all right, but kind of been waiting for that big rushing game from Kyler Murray, and we still haven't seen it. And I wonder if that happens this week against Philly. tried to pick a quarterback that wasn't obvious. I could have gave you Mahomes. I could have gave you Allen. I could have gave you Jackson. I could have gave you a bunch of guys who were in better spots. But like last week, my Russell Wilson one didn't exactly pan out. He didn't play terrible, but the Broncos are terrible. That's what we found out about that. But no, I'm going to go with Kyler Murray.
Yeah, that's a fair one. I love Kyler Murray. Hopefully he can get it going and put the Cardinals in a better position, I think, for the playoffs. Moving on, my next one though is Trevor Lawrence. Like I said, I forgot to pick a running back, so Trevor Lawrence is mine this week. He's my other one. It's at Houston. Houston is literally garbage. Like they belong literally in the back of a garbage truck and taken away. Disband franchise, like I said last week, it's literally Sacramento Kings, but the NFL version. But Trevor Lawrence was 11 for 23 last week with 174 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception. He was sacked 4 times, but you could say it's a bad game. I think I'm going to say it's a pretty iffy game compared to his other ones that he's been having to start off the season. So I think he'll bounce back this week, and I think it's a perfect game to bounce back against Houston.
Well, I'm going to go with good old Uncle Lenny. Leonard Fournette. Not going to be hard to bounce back from the week he had last week, with his -3 rushing yards against the Chiefs.
I don't even want to talk about it. It was in my other fantasy league. I don't even want to talk about it.
He did have 7 catches for 57 yards and a touchdown. He had 18.4 points. That's not bad. But I think he's finally going to get his first rushing touchdown this week. I think he gets 2 of them against Atlanta. And I think this Tampa Bay offense, I think the Tampa Bay rushing game gets going. I think Fournette looks good this week. They need it. They're 2-2. They got to try to separate themselves in that division. That is awful. I mean, not mistaken. That game is for first place in that division. They're both 2-2. The Saints are 1-3, and the Panthers. Yeah, that game is for first place through 5 games in the NFC South.
Yeah, that division is
bad.
Something. For my third pop of the week, did pick a wide receiver, so go me. Is going to be a man who hasn't played since week 1. And week 1, he had 4 receptions on 4 targets for 66 yards. Keenan Allen. It's if he plays. He's still questionable, but I love Keenan Allen. He's number 1 wide receiver in Los Angeles. I don't even think it's a question. If you argue Mike Williams, I will call you crazy. But if he plays this week, I think Keenan Allen is the type of guy to not play for instance, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. Come back and just go off. I think that's the type of guy Keenan Allen is, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen.
All right, mine. Ja'Marr Chase. He's been good. He hasn't been the guy you've wanted him to be if he's on your fantasy team, as someone who owns Ja'Marr Chase. 28.9 fantasy points week 1. Fantastic. 10.8, 12.7, 12.1 the next 3. No more than 6 catches, no more than 81 yards in the last 3 weeks for Mr. Chase. Got saved by a touchdown against the Jets where he only had 6 catches for 29 yards. Not great, but it's got to come. This Baltimore secondary is terrible. If you're looking for a big, huge night from Ja'Marr Chase, I'm going to call 2 touchdowns, but might call the long one that he scores a big one against Baltimore. This secondary is atrocious. Marlon Humphrey is good, but the rest of the secondary is just bad. I mean, Josh Allen carved them up in the rain. I can only imagine how bad that game would have been if it actually would have been good weather, and how huge of a game Josh Allen would have had in that game. I was really disappointed that game got weather affected, because that was going to be that 38-35 game that we really wanted, but we didn't get.
Yeah, that's a good prediction. Honestly, I could see Ja'Marr Chase having a big week. Moving up, the flops of the week for week 5. And again, I picked 2 running backs on accident, so
good job.
I won't have a wide receiver. Wasn't paying attention. Anyway, flop of the week, Najee Harris. it may not even be a flop of the week technically, but I think he'll continue to not be great. I don't think he's going to continue to be the running back everybody was hoping for. I was hoping for, including I drafted him last year, was really hoping for it. But I think the Bills defense is way too good for the Steelers and specifically for that run game. And I'm going to predict less than 50 yards rushing this week.
Okay. To be perfectly honest with you, I wasn't ready for this segment. I had my pops completely ready. But there's not really a bad there's not really a bad quarterback matchup all the way down at the top. Like, you could argue Russell Wilson, but he's just not good at this point. Like, I don't. Okay, I'm gonna.
Poor guy.
Geno had the good week last week. I'm gonna go with Geno Smith. I mean, it's hard to bounce back. It's hard to follow up that performance, but I just don't think he has a good week. This New Orleans defense is really good, even though they got carved up by Justin Jefferson. New special alert: the New Orleans Saints don't have anybody the caliber of Justin Jefferson. And sorry, no offense to, I don't know if Jameis or Andy Dalton's going to play quarterback, but if Andy Dalton plays quarterback, they don't have anybody close to Kirk Cousins either. So give me Geno Smith.
It's not a bad prediction because guess what? That prediction and my next one will go hand in hand. My second flop of the week is going to be Rashad Penny. I'm sorry, but after the big week last week, I think he's easily going to have less than 100 yards. He hasn't had really even close to 100 yards this season. Before last week, it was 66 was his closest, and 60 and 15. So, easily less than 100 yards. I think no touchdown this week for Rashad Penny. And I think last week might have been a one-time thing. Not only for Rashad Penny, but for all of Seattle. So,
all right. I mean, there's a all right. I'm gonna go with a guy who got put into a good spot just because I don't believe in this guy. Javonte, we'll mention it when we get to Denver, but Javonte Williams tore his ACL. I have no faith whatsoever in Melvin Gordon. The man fumbles every time. It feels like he fumbles every time he touches the ball. So I'm gonna go with Melvin Gordon, who's probably going to be thrust into a bigger role with Javonte Williams out for the rest of the year now. We'll see if Mike Boone gets some of that work, but I think they're going to try to go to Melvin Gordon, and I just don't see that working.
My third and final flop of the week. I hate to be saying this, but all good things must come to an end, and it's Cooper Rush. I'm sorry, but it has to happen at some point, and the Rams defense is so good. Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, etc. The list goes on and on. And I think it'll be a long day at the office for Cooper Rush.
I can't really disagree with you at this point. Like, it's tough. I mean, like you said, that Rams defense is really good, even though Garoppolo got to him. That was more the lack of the Rams secondary being able to tackle Deebo Samuel, because he is a beast. But I don't like it this way. I'm with you there. I'm with you there on Cooper Rush. That secondary is good. I mean, when you have to worry about Jalen Ramsey, I think they're going to have to move CeeDee Lamb around a lot. Michael Gallup coming back will help them, but
a lot of motion.
Going to be a lot of it. I think this is a tough spot for a receiver this week too, because there's a lot of pretty good matchups, but and there's a lot of guys you could just pick to go off of. Like, well, they had a great week last week, so they're not going to have a good week this week. Well, there's a lot of guys you could do that with, but I'm going to do it with DK Metcalf. I'm going to go 2 Seahawks here. I'm going to take 2 Seahawks. I think New Orleans wins that game too, as long as the zombie doesn't play quarterback. But I think DK had a really good week last week. I can't tell you I'll bring up his exact numbers, but they were kind of out of nowhere. He hadn't had a good week yet this year, but he had 7 for 149. Kind of came out of nowhere. Had more yards in that game than he did in the first 3. I don't think you see anything like that this week, especially if he gets Marshawn Lattimore. You know how good he is as a corner. So I'm going to go 2 Seahawks here. I'm going to take DK Metcalf.
Yeah, I think that's a good flop. I mean, the Seahawks probably will have a rough week. So, moving on to the final section of this week's podcast. It is the Week 5 predictions with a little touch into the Week 4 games. So, first game of the week, Thursday Night Football. It's in Denver. It's coming to Colorado. It's the Colts versus the Broncos. Well, this one, I don't even know if I'm going to watch it. I probably won't be home. Probably wouldn't watch it anyway. But I'm going to say the Broncos are going to win. The Colts aren't great. Broncos aren't great. But I think Russell Wilson will have a decent week this week. 230, 250 yards. Couple tutties. I think Denver will win, and it's at home.
I do too, and I think the lack of Jonathan Taylor is really going to hurt Indianapolis. Matt Ryan is not good. This Colts team is not good.
Matt Ryan can't move either.
No, and this Denver pass rush is really, really good. So I'm going to take Denver, even though I'm pretty sure they are without Randy Gregory. I'm going to have to double check that. I thought I saw that he was out for a while. I mean, that's a big loss for their pass rush, but yeah, he got put on injured reserve along with Javonte Williams. So that's a big hit to their pass rush, but I still don't think that that's really going to do much. I just think that Denver is going to have their way with Indianapolis tomorrow night. Or I guess that is tonight, since we're recording this Wednesday night. So you guys will see this on Thursday.
Well, welcome back. After some unfortunate circumstances, aka Zoom being dumb and only allowing us to be on a Zoom for 40 minutes, and I'm not spending that type of money. It may not seem like a welcome back for you guys, but it is 30 minutes later?
At least.
Because you had some stuff to take care of, so
yeah,
with your job. So anyway, we're back. And next game up, we left off in Colorado. So moving on to Sunday football, 8:30 a.m., bright and early at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London. It's the New York Giants versus the Green Bay Packers.
Well, the Packers sneaking by the Patriots and their third-string quarterback. Well, like we mentioned earlier, Giants could be without Daniel Jones. I just think Green Bay routes. I think Green Bay routes New York here.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a blowout.
I think the London
Daniel Jones is very, very much going to hurt.
If no Daniel Jones, again, we're recording this on a Wednesday night, so we don't have practice reports from Thursday and Friday, and that's across the pond too. So those are going to be a little bit different from over there. But I still think this is Green Bay's got a handle on this one, even with their lack of a receiving core. Aaron Rodgers is still one of the best to ever do it.
Yeah, and for the Giants, also I want to point out Sterling Shepard obviously out for the rest of the year. Richie James is questionable. He missed Wednesday's practice with an ankle injury. And like you said, third string quarterback, it's not really what you want. So Kenny Galladay's also doubtful. It's going to be a very rough week for New York.
No. Like Green Bay didn't look good. Like they played Brian Hoyer for a little bit, and then they got Bailey Zappi, rookie out of Western Kentucky, who, I mean, I didn't pay any attention to that Patriots-Packers game because I wanted nothing to do with it. That game was way closer than it should have been. Green Bay almost lost to a third-string rookie quarterback, which looks bad, but I'm sorry. Whoever the Giants put in at quarterback might be worse than a rookie quarterback at this point. But if you're the only hope New York has, it's not like Daniel Jones is good, but he's probably going to be better than anything you can put in there. He gives them at least a chance, but if they have any shot of this game, Saquon's going to have to go crazy.
But they are 3-1. Anyway, moving on to Buffalo and Pittsburgh. It's at Buffalo. It is a 12 o'clock game this Sunday. Notable injuries specifically for Pittsburgh is Minka Fitzpatrick's out. He is questionable with a knee injury. Cameron Hayward out as well. And for Buffalo, Dawson Knox is questionable. Jordan Poyer questionable. And Tremaine Edmonds also questionable for Buffalo. However, I've got Buffalo and I've got a blowout.
I also do too. Poor Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
gets beat by Zach, who comes in at halftime, gets 2 rushing touchdowns, also throws 3 interceptions, and then gets beat by Zach Wilson. By the way, the Jets are 2-2. Did anybody see that coming? No. But no, this is Buffalo by a million. This game will not be close at any point. 0-0 will be the closest this game is, and it will be Buffalo the rest of the way. Pittsburgh will not lead in this game. Pittsburgh will not sniff a lead in this game. So yeah. I think Buffalo. This is one of those that could be like 38 to. This was those 38-3 type games. Buffalo's defense is so good, even without Micah Hyde. This defense is and Tre'Davious White. This defense is still really, really good.
Yeah. Moving forward to the next game, the Los Angeles Chargers at Cleveland taking on the Browns. I've got the Chargers. I hope Keenan Allen comes back this week. It could be great if he did. Davion Clowney's questionable for Cleveland at the moment. Njoku's questionable. So they have a lot of injuries actually at the moment. Yeah. Myles Garrett's also questionable. Oh. So we'll see what happens there. But I've got the Chargers probably by a lot.
Yeah, shockingly, this spread's only 2.5. The Chargers are only favored by 2.5. I was kind of surprised when I saw that the first time around. I thought they'd be a little bit bigger favorites, but now I've got the Chargers here. Straight up, give me LA all day. Give me Justin Herbert over Jacoby Brissett. I'm pretty sure that's about as one of the most lopsided quarterback matchups you're going to get outside of Josh Allen and Kenny Pickett. But yeah, I think this is a dub for the Chargers.
Yep, I think it's easy. I don't know anybody who's going to argue it. The only people who might argue it's Cleveland fans. So moving forward, the 12 o'clock game, Chicago at Minnesota at the U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. Notable injuries on October 5th specifically. That's what I've been reading these injuries off of. So I haven't been reading injuries that have happened already and are confirmed. For instance, like Sterling Shepard for the Giants, since he's out for the season. So, but notable ones here as of October 5th, David Montgomery's questionable still. And for the Vikings, Zadarius Smith's questionable. So I've got the Vikings in this one. It's at home, coming back from London. I don't think it's going to matter too much. I've got the Vikings
coming off of a big win in London for the Vikings. But yeah, I'm looking down the schedule trying to find where we're going to disagree first, but I think this is Minnesota easy. Like Chicago's not good. The fact that they're 2-2 is a small miracle when their quarterback's barely throwing the football. Like, I don't know. You might have to how many yards does Justin Fields have throwing in 4 games? I'm pretty sure it's terrible. I'm looking it up right now. Justin Fields is thrown for 471 yards in 4 games. That comes out to a whopping 117.8 yards per game. Mind you, this man is an NFL starting quarterback.
That's bad.
107.
Go sign Cooper Rush.
Go sign or go get a receiving core. That might help the poor kid. His receiving cores at Ohio State might have been better than this. Like, well, you think about it, they probably were actually. Chris Olave and I don't know if Garrett Wilson was there too, but Olave was for sure there when Fields was there. Somebody might have to correct me on that, but I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
that Olave was one of his main targets.
Yeah, Chicago needs some wide receivers. Justin Fields needs help. Next up, Detroit at the Patriots, Lions, Pats. Lions is who I've got in this one. DeAndre Swift's still out, I believe. I think he's questionable, but TJ Hawkinson also questionable. DJ Chark questionable. I mean, I'm on St. Brown questionable. I'm starting to look at these injuries and I'm starting to think different. But Mac Jones is questionable as well. But I've still got the Lions. I don't think they're as bad as what I get it. They're 1-3, but I don't think the Lions are as bad as what everybody thought they were going to be. Their record may not help that, but I think the Lions have got a lot of young talent.
Yeah, I'm still going with Detroit here. I don't have any faith. Even New England's favorite in this game, by the way. I don't know how. They're probably going to end up playing a third string quarterback unless Mac Jones makes a miraculous recovery from that awful ankle injury he had. They're probably going to be playing a third string quarterback. Granted, like you said, Detroit is without basically all of their pass catchers and their starting running back. Insert TJ Hawkinson big week again. I just like Detroit. You went with Detroit also. Sorry, I was looking up to make sure that Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were on that roster, and they were with Justin Fields. So, yes, Justin Fields' college wide receivers were better than the ones he has in the pros.
That's unfortunate. He's been thrown into a hard situation in Chicago.
Yeah.
Moving forward, honestly, probably going to be an interesting one, actually. Seattle, New Orleans at the Caesars Superdome. I've got the Seahawks. Rashad Penny's questionable, and I know I had him as my flop and stuff, but I'm not a big fan of the Saints this year. I don't know. Jarvis Landry's questionable. Kamara's questionable. Winston's questionable. Taysom Hill's questionable. Michael Thomas is questionable. I mean, the entire team's just gone. I've got Seattle. It'll be a close one, but I've got Seattle.
Well, in case you couldn't tell from my flops this week, I'm picking New Orleans. And I'm kind of surprised you picked Seattle after the way you talked about Seattle earlier. But no, I'm going to take New Orleans. I think this is a good bounce back spot for them. I think this is a good flop spot for Seattle after coming off of that win over Detroit, scoring as many points as they did. It's going to be tough sledding this week against that New Orleans defense, and I think New Orleans takes this one. They're back at home. They're back where they're comfortable. I think they take a dub here. As much as I love Geno.
And this one, heading back to New York. The only game in New York this week. It's the Miami Dolphins visiting the Jets. I've got the Dolphins without Tua. I believe he's already out this week.
Right? Yes, he was rolled out. He was rolled out already,
as he probably should be. So
yes,
Jalen Waddle's questionable though. Xavier Howard, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think the Dolphins will take this one. It could end up being close, maybe. I think it can go two ways. I think it'll be a win for the Dolphins by like 20, or it'll be a close one against the Jets here. Breece Hall questionable, but Zach Wilson also questionable. But it doesn't matter. Joe Flacco's there.
You know who I don't believe in? Teddy Bridgewater. He has not been good anywhere he has went. Give me Zach Wilson. Give me these young, talented receivers. Give me the Jets. I don't know why. I can't explain to you why, but give me the Jets. I never thought the Jets. I'd predicting the Jets to be 3-2, but here we are again. I just think this is a good spot for New York. Miami doesn't have their stud quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater is not Tua, and I just think this is Jets coming off of an emotional win in Pittsburgh, trying to carry that momentum.
Yeah, I actually think it'll be a decent game, but I think there's only two ways it can go. So, going to Tampa, Atlanta Falcons versus the Buccaneers. Honestly, the Falcons might be the team with the least amount of injuries in the entire NFL. So, good job, Atlanta. You're doing something right down there. But Patterson on the injured reserve as of October 3rd. But Kyle Pitts is questionable for this week, and otherwise nothing too crazy for them. But looking here for the Buccaneers, Tom Brady, questionable. He's getting too dang old. Akeem Hicks, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Russell Gage, Cameron Brate, all questionable for the Buccaneers. But I think most of them will play, and I think Tampa Bay will.
None of it matters. There's not too much to look into. Good bounce back spot for Tampa here. I think they probably just blow Atlanta out. I think this is a good spot for Tampa Bay.
Yeah, especially in Florida too. Next game, and it is the Titans versus the Commanders. Honestly, could be an interesting one. I've not been impressed with either of these teams so far this season, if I'm being honest. Nobody crazy for the Titans, unless they're just somebody I just don't know. Commanders don't really have anybody out either, outside of Chase Young, if he's still out as of October 3rd with his knee.
I'm having a tough time with this one. Neither one of these teams are. I don't feel comfortable picking either one of these teams, but when in doubt,
go with Tennessee.
Well, I'm going to take
because of Derrick Henry's game last week. I think he'll.
In case we're sticking to a theme here, I'm taking the home team for the third or fourth game in a row. I'm taking the home team. I'm going to take the Washington Commanders. Don't ask me why. I can't tell you because I don't think Tennessee is very good. Tennessee doesn't have much of a receiving core. Treylon Burks is out now. Their number one is Robert Woods, and create a player after that. Like I mean, you have Derrick Henry, but he's only going to take you so far. I just think neither one of these teams have been impressive. Just give me the home team at this point.
Yep, fair enough. Moving forward to the final one of the 12 o'clock games, and it is Houston at Jacksonville. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even pull up the injuries at the moment for either roster. Jacksonville all the way, gonna be a blowout. Trevor Lawrence is gonna have an absolute field day. It's in Jacksonville too. Texans are horrible. Man, I hope I never have to. If I ever have a job opportunity with the Texans, it's gonna be rough to get that job.
Yeah, they may not be bad. They may not be bad forever. They might have the number one pick next year. C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young might be their quarterback next year. So good for them.
Crap, I talk on them. Who knows? But I've got Jacksonville blowout. I don't got much to say. I'm being honest.
I don't either. Jacksonville by a lot. Houston's got to figure something out, or just let it go and you get the number one pick next year. I think that's probably where they're at this point. They started 0-3-1.
Let it go.
No, they don't. They can just, it's already gone. So
play football.
Yeah. Just go out and play at this point. And you win some, but you're probably going to lose a lot more than you win if you're the Texans right now.
Yeah. It's rough down there in Houston. Moving forward though, to the 3:05 game here on Sunday at the Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's the 49ers versus the Panthers. And I will take the 49ers. I think last Monday's game is a huge win for the 49ers. And I think they're going to carry on and take that momentum into the upcoming weeks.
I do as well. I'm going to take San Francisco. Their defense looked amazing. You mentioned earlier they sacked Matt Stafford 7 times, and Baker's going to be running for his life the whole game. So good spot here for San Francisco. Even on the road, I think this is one they handle pretty easily.
Yeah. Next game, 3:25. We have 2 3:25 games, and it is the Cowboys versus the Rams in California. I think I kind of said it earlier, but with Cooper Rush being one of my flops, like I said, all good things have to come to an end, and this is where it comes to an end, and I don't think it's going to be pretty. I think this could be a very long game for Dallas, and if you're a Dallas fan, you might have a hard time watching. So I've got the Rams, and I've got it by a lot.
I don't have the Rams by a lot. I think this is a good game. I think Dallas's defense can keep this somewhat close. But I think I've talked a lot about bounce back spots. I think this is another good one for the Rams. That defense is still good. Like, they didn't have a good night against San Francisco, but San Francisco had the Rams number in the regular season, just not in the playoffs. But I think LA gets this one. As much as I want to stick with Mr. Rush and his amazing run that he's had, but I think the Rams take this one.
Second 325 game. Both of these actually on Fox. We got an interesting one. Two birds going at it. Philadelphia Eagles, Arizona Cardinals in Glendale, Arizona. I think this will be a very entertaining game, actually. I'm kind of struggling. I'm going to go with the team that's hot. I'm going to go with Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is on fire. This whole team is on fire. They're playing so well together right now. And JJ Watt's questionable. You said, it's only Wednesday, but Marquise Brown's also questionable. So I'm not even going to take those into account. I've got Philadelphia. I think it'll be a really good game, though. I think it's going to come down to the wire. And yeah.
Hint, hint, wink, wink. Kyler Murray was my pop. Guess what? The Eagles win streak finally comes to an end. I'm taking Arizona. Don't have much rhyme or reason for it. I just think that Arizona is going to carry the momentum they had with that win over Carolina, and I think they're going to continue that and win their second in a row in Philly's winning streak, but that still puts Philly on top of the division if Dallas loses.
Yeah, I think this game can go either way. So we'll see. Should be an entertaining one. Cincinnati versus Baltimore. It's a home game for the Ravens here. 7:20 game here on Sunday night. And Cincinnati, T. Higgins questionable at the moment. Probably wouldn't be too worried. Ankle. The one I would be worried about, Evan McPherson. My goodness, he's questionable. That is a scary one for Bengals fans. Ravens, J.K. Dobbins, doesn't matter. It's running back university. They got plenty of them. I say that. Two of them, one's questionable, one's doubtful, and one is out. So, but you got Lamar Jackson. Might as well be a running back sometimes. So, I've got the Ravens actually in this one. I think home field advantage is going to come in huge for them. I think Lamar Jackson is just going to be Lamar. I mean, he's playing amazing. He's in the MVP race. So, I've got the Ravens.
I think the Bengals finally get it right. They got a win over Miami last week. I think they continue with that. I think that Jamar Chase decimates the secondary. I think he has a huge game. I think Burrow has a huge game. And I like Cincinnati, even on the road. In division game. This will be a good game. This is a really, really good Sunday night football game to close out Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. It'll be a close one, I think. Moving on, Monday Night Football, and it's coming to Kansas City at the Arrowhead Stadium. Raiders Chiefs at 7:15 p.m. on Monday. There is some slight bias to here, but at the same time, the Raiders are 1-3 and they beat the Broncos. So I've got Kansas City on this one. Injuries, Renfro's questionable. Probably changed since October 4th.
I think he's still coming back from a concussion.
He is. The Chiefs had nothing today on their injury list. Harrison Butker, I think, is still questionable, however. And
I want my.
You may think a kicker is not as important, but my goodness, I would love Harrison Butker back.
It's the difference between them being 3-1 and 4-0 at this point is Matt Amendola not being able to make an extra point in a 37-yard field goal. Yeah, thanks, bud. You got cut by the Jets. God, why did we sign that guy? I would have taken anybody. Just to let Justin Reed kick field goals. I know he's a safety, but it probably would have been just as good. Like, God. But no, I don't even need to say who I'm picking because everybody already knows. I'm the diehard Chiefs fan. I'm picking Kansas City. Huge win on Sunday night last week over Tampa Bay, going into Tampa and winning that game, basically dominating that game from the word go. They forced a fumble on the opening kickoff, and 2 plays later scored a touchdown. And Tampa was done after that. They came down and got the field goal. Kansas City then blew it open. It was 21-3. And Chiefs kind of just took control from there.
Yeah, the only notable injury for the Raiders that kind of makes me intrigued is a cornerback who's questionable. His name is Rock Ya-Sin.
Great
That
name.
is an amazing name.
Fantastic name.
Great name. Yeah, that's the only thing I got for the Raiders. Otherwise, so
Chiefs are gonna have a problem with Devontae Adams, but everybody has a problem with Devontae Adams. Fantastic insight, I know. I just don't think this when the Chiefs offense is clicking, good luck stopping them. That's what Tampa ran into last week. Tampa's defense had been spectacular the first 3 weeks of the year, and the Chiefs defense carved them up. Like, that was the best the Chiefs offense has looked this year by a lot. And it wasn't just Mahomes. Edwards-Helaire looked good. That was fine. Kelsey got back into a rhythm. The whole offense just looked good, top to bottom. And when you score 41 points, it should look good. And it looked really, really good.
Yeah, Chiefs looked good last week against the Bucks. But that'll do it for this week's episode of the NFL heading into week 5. And we'll see you next Thursday. Yep, Thursday for another episode of the NFL. I got my days mixed up there, but have a wonderful rest of your day and week, and we hope to have you join us next time on the Two Bros Sports Podcast. It's 11:37 p.m. So with that being said, I am your host, Hunter Smith, and goodbye.